so we're live streaming. Hello everybody. I have pleasure in opening the council briefing of the 2nd of December 2025 at 6 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. The City of Vincent would like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and to pay our respects to elders past and present, acknowledging that as the City of Vincent we have a role to play in working towards reconciliation and justice for First Nations people. I have got an approved leave of absence from Councillor Castle. Otherwise, everybody else is here in attendance. Okay, so we'll just go straight to public question time. Can I just get an indication? Would you like to address the council? No worries. Okay, so what you need to do is you just need to come forward. You need to state your name and what suburb you reside in. If you're talking to, and tonight's a briefing session, so you need to be talking to one of the items, so just say which one it is. You're limited to 3 minutes, but what we will do is we will then put that item first on the agenda for you. Okay, so you can speak now, so over to you.
Good evening, my name's Kevin Canis. I'm President of the Castor Region Association of Western Australia and our headquarters are at 160 Anzac Road, Mount Hawthorn. The reason I'm speaking tonight is to item 5.4, which is the listing of our headquarters in the local heritage survey where it was categorised as Category 2. And so I'd like to read us a statement now that you should have a copy of, and I'll go through it as quick as I can. The Castor Region Association of WA has owned 160 Anzac Road for 44 years, in which time it has shown itself to be a respectful custodian of the site while making the building a valuable community resource, not only for its members but also the local neighbourhood. The most appropriate rating for the site on the LHS is Category 4, where the historical value could be recorded as the architectural value is not unique or true to its original design. This departure from the architectural value is detailed in the report by Mr. John Canis that you should have before you, dated 19th of June 2025. It is only due to it being a prominent, well-maintained building and grounds that make the site worthy of any attention. As a volunteer organisation, the association is reliant on members' efforts. Placing Category 2 classification on the building will put an additional burden on volunteers when responding to town planners, heritage architects and other regulators when considering changes to the building. This is not to mention devaluation of the site as an asset due to restrictions it will place on a prospective purchaser. The Heritage Council's guidelines indicate that being classified as Category 2 means the site will inevitably be heritage listed. As the site has minimal architectural merit, heritage listing for this site should not be necessary. The signage the association has installed that you have in the papers before you, telling the story of the building and its history is all that is necessary. The restrictions likely due to a heritage listing could compromise the development of the site as a community resource. We've recently installed shade sails to make better use of the outside areas. It is likely heritage listing could prevent similar improvements in the future. These restrictions and additional regulations could compromise the viability of the site and force relocation of the association with a consequential loss of the community resource. In recognition of its historical significance, the association installed an information board telling the story of the building. This is not only evidence of the association's respect for the site, but also an example of how the historical significance can be recorded and shared without the unnecessary restrictions on changes to the building or grounds. Also, we'd like to comment on the heritage, the process followed for the assessment. The Heritage Council guidelines sets out the process.
So, Mr. Canis, that your time is actually up.
Okay.
Having said that, we've actually got your paper that I can confirm that has been circulated to all members.
Okay.
And I also want to confirm that you are welcome to come back next week as well, if you wish
Okay,
to.
thank
if you
you.
wish to address it, or if you have anything further that you wish to add. So you've raised the substantive concerns about the building itself, and I understand you wanted to make some further commentary about the process. And if you wanted to put in additional, if you wanted to add anything, you're very welcome to do.
So all the information I had, but John would also like to speak if he could have 3
Absolutely,
minutes.
absolutely,
Okay,
that
but
can
this
happen.
paper's before you. I only got halfway through it, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. All right. So yes, if you wish to address the meeting. So can I confirm you're speaking on the same item?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, my name's John Canis, and I'm also here for item 5.4, 160 Anzac Road. I previously spent many hours preparing a report objecting to Category 2 classification, which was submitted to the City of Vincent last July without any response or acknowledgement of receival, but now I understand, I think everybody has a copy that's been scanned. I disagree with the classification in my report. I requested Category 4 classification as the historical details could easily be recorded, being the history of the occupants and the usage to date. Yes, it is a lovely looking building to the layman. However, the original architectural detailing has been stripped over many years and replaced with materials which do not reflect the original architectural intent. The City of Vincent report states Anzac Road is having a high degree of integrity. To date, it's had many alterations and additions as a commercial building with only a couple of existing timber windows and 1 chimney remaining original. With over 90% of the original architectural design intent stripped or altered, it is definitely not Category 2, as I explained in my report. The architectural drawings obtained from the City of Vincent and the City of Perth dated 1957, 1962, 2007, 2017, 2020, 2023 all show the modifications to the building. All clearly show the commercial changes to the architect's original Federation bungalow style design. All these changes have previously been approved by the City of Perth and the City of Vincent. The building is situated on the corner, has 2 views from both streets, Anzac and Kalgoorlie. Now the building has the original veranda, the decorative tiles covered with concrete, the original path and street fencing removed, rear veranda removed, timber veranda turn post removed, veranda decorative timber frieze removed, no existing doors or interiors remaining, face brickwork and tuck pointing completely painted over and damaged in many areas, 2 chimneys removed, 1 remaining, all 5 fireplaces removed, all gable fretwork and detailed removed, original roof sheets replaced and removed. The original details that remain are 3 ordinary timber frames, windows, 1 very nice stained glass window and 1 chimney which we've just restored recently. The rear side and the back are just modern extensions with aluminium frames. With over 90% of the original architect's design stripped or altered, it's definitely not Category 2. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So a summary of your remarks are going to be included in the agenda, and as I said, we're going to deal with that item first. And just a reminder that we don't make any decisions tonight. This is a briefing session, so the item is going to be considered at next week's council meeting, when you are, of course, welcome to attend again. Yes, you most certainly are, and you're also able to readdress the meeting if you wish. At the next meeting as well as send us information in between if you wish to. Okay. All right. So there being no further questions, I close public question time at 6:08. Okay. So Governance Manager, I understand we have received some statements. Do you wish to identify them?
Yes, through you, Mayor Zaman, we have received questions and statements from Michael Green of Highgate in relation to item 5.2, Jason Boyd of Highgate in relation to item 5.2, Peter and Suzette Herkenoff of Highgate in relation to item 5.2, and Sarah Ukic and Christopher Malcolm of Highgate also in relation to item 5.2. These questions and statements have been circulated to council members, and any questions that are not answered this evening will be included in the council briefing notes.
CEO, do you have any declarations of interest?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, none received for this evening.
Councillors, can I confirm, are there any declarations as Councillor Wallace?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I declare a late financial interest in item 5.4 5.4, the Heritage Survey. My home is on the Heritage Survey.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other declarations of interest? Councillor Poulios.
Yeah, item 6.1, Loftus Recreation Centre. I play casually indoor soccer there, and my son plays basketball there as well.
Not sure that counts as a
Impartiality, yeah, sorry.
an impartiality interest.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, so you don't leave for that. Are there any other conflicts of interest? Okay. All right. So, councillors, I'm just determining which ones you wish to speak to. Councillor Warner. Oh, bearing in mind we're already going to deal with 5.4.
Sure. So 5.2, 6.1 and 6.2.
5.2, 6.1 and 6.2, did you say?
Yes, please.
Okay. Councillor Wallace. Councillor LaFontaine. Councillor Greer. Councillor Whedon.
11.1.
11.1. Okay. Councillor Wolf.
8.3, please.
8.3. And Councillor Poulios.
6.1, 6.2.
Okay, which have already been listed, and mine have already been listed as well. Okay, so I'm going to go straight. Oh, sorry. I should probably just. Yes, good. I'm going to go straight to the first one, which is 5.4, outcome of advertising and adoption of local heritage survey and amended heritage list that had been raised. Yes, I'm noticing that Councillor Wallace is, who has a financial interest, is leaving. Okay, does anyone wish to pursue any of the questions or concerns which were raised from the public gallery? Councillor Warner.
Thank you. First question, in basic terms, can you explain to us what the practical difference is between something being marked as Category 2 as opposed to Category 4?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, the city's cultural heritage significance policy sets out a rating, Category 1 through to 4 for all our heritage listed properties. Category 2 are considered as considerable significance and have a high importance to the heritage of the locality. In terms of implications, that is identified as they should be on the heritage list and have protection under the city's local planning scheme. Category 4 are the lowest category, and they're identified as having or making little contribution to the heritage of the locality. And based on that, they are not recommended for the heritage list and are identified as being below the threshold.
Thank you. And do you have a response to the discussion we've just had with the representatives from I don't even know how to pronounce it. That house.
Through Mayor Zaman, yes, in short, I think it's not just the physical appearance of the building that has been identified for the heritage Category 2. The city's external heritage consultant, which assisted with the review, picked up that it has both historic and social value for the wider Greek community, and the social value that the space provides in supporting that community and offering support to the cultural and heritage of the Castellaritsian community, as well as that wider Greek community. So that assessment is really what's picked up on the higher level that's been recommended by the city.
Thank you. So as they suggested, things like the alterations they've done, such as the shade sails, would that be really implicated if they were to be listed as a Category 2? Would they be really restricted in that sort of thing? I think they've also changed the pathways and some of the access ways, that kind of thing.
Through Mayor Zaman, when it comes to assessing a future DA or future redevelopment for a heritage listed place, it comes back to what the statement of significance is, and that's what identifies the the key components. In this case, the statement of significance really relates to that social value, so it's not so much the physical building, but it's what that building represents. When it comes to a redevelopment, things like shade sales, or even if there was some additions proposed, the key consideration would be how is that social value being interpreted or reinterpreted through the works. So it's not that it would restrict those works from happening, but it's more about how can that statement be represented, which in my mind would be less restrictive than if it was an actual physical part of the building or the building's appearance that was significant.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to continue on Councillor Warner's line of questioning, I was wondering if we had a specific response to the concerns raised about the fact that putting it forward as a Category 2 would place an unnecessary burden on some of the volunteer members and devalue the site for prospective purchasers, please.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, I'm probably not well placed to comment on the impact of a heritage listing on the nature of the association and what it would mean for the volunteers, but I think the recognition of the significance of the place and what that means culturally and socially is an important value and really aligns with the strategic community plan objective about preserving all of our heritage, not just built form. So in terms of a property devaluation, again, that's a hard one to say, but I probably wouldn't agree with the comments about it restricting adaptation or development down the line that might be associated with values.
Are there any further questions? Councillor LaFontaine?
Thank you, Mayor. Just in regard to the Category 4, they're recognised as having elements of value that are worth noting for the community, but in the consultation, we are informing the owners and the occupiers and generally have a broader consultation. I'm just wondering if, as part of the Stage 2 consultation, whether the city could put a notice on the properties, perhaps, just so that the surrounding community can know of the properties that are being suggested to be removed from the heritage list?
Through Mayor Zaman, yes, we could do that. I think there will be 7 properties, so pretty low scale.
Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions in relation to this item? Okay, can someone invite Councillor Wallace to join us again? Thank you. And so I'm now going to move to 5.2, which is number 11 St Albans Avenue, Highgate, proposed change of use from group dwelling to group dwelling and holiday house. Okay, so Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to start, please, with asking about number 2, St Albans Avenue, which was listed in the report as a commercial office for an advertising agency. But then we've heard from the community that there is no such address. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Zaman. So the city staff pulled the addresses that were stated in the report from the city's online mapping system. So the address attached to that property in our mapping system is number 2 St Albans. We note that on their own website for that particular property, they list their address as being to Beaufort Street, but the purpose of the figure included in the report was to demonstrate very clearly which properties we're referring to as being non-residential in nature.
Thank you. In terms of how we as councillors approach this issue, I'm wondering, in addition to the length of time that the property will be proposed to be operating as a STRA, are we able to consider the current severity of the housing crisis in relation to maintaining long-term housing supply in residential zones?
Through you, Mayor Zaman. An interesting question, absolutely. So I'm sure councillors would be familiar with the matters that we have to consider as part of a planning assessment. They are outlined in clause 67 of the deemed provisions. One of the items that aren't listed in there aren't items that we can consider as part of our decision making. So the provision of long-term housing is not considered as part of those deemed provisions. However, the objectives do talk about appropriate residential activities and non-residential activities occurring in that residential zone.
And I was just hoping to move on to, please, the screening processes that were described in the report. In terms of anti-discrimination provisions, I wanted to just confirm the legality of the proposal in the report. The way it was described was only accepting guest profiles from mature couples, small families, business travellers, and not profiles such as multiple unrelated adults or school leavers.
Through you, Mayor Zaman. So this is something that the applicant has put to us, is how they will manage their vetting of their guests. The conditions, I believe, don't specifically require them to restrict their occupants to those particular people for that very reason. That was something that we did discuss as a concern that we had in the enforceability of that, and also through discrimination and I guess profiling people based on any particular characteristic.
Can I just confirm, if that's okay, that even if this is how they're intending to manage the property, that even with a time-limited provision, that this would run with the land anyway for that time? It could be taken over by somebody else. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor Zaman.
Thank you. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. I wanted to start with parking, please. So we are proposing that this property doesn't come with parking, so there'll be no parking available to people who holiday at this place. The report shares that the parking occupancy on the street is 44% in peak period. I was just hoping to get some more information on when that assessment was done and if that was done on a Friday and Saturday evening.
Through you, Mayor Zaman. The parking survey was last undertaken in May, and that occurred from Friday through to Sunday.
Thank you. My next question, I just wanted to go to the proposed condition of 181 nights per year, and the report states that the remaining nights it would be considered a group dwelling, but further down the report it also states that it will only be used for 6 months of the year. So I'm just trying to understand if the city's got an understanding of the spread of the 181 nights. Do we expect that this would be a holiday home for 6 months and then a group dwelling for 6 months, or could that 181 nights be throughout the year?
Through you, Mayor Zaman. The application didn't explain the makeup of those nights, so it isn't defined as to whether or not those 6 months will be continuous for being used as a holiday house and used as a group dwelling. So the approach that we've taken is limiting it based on the total number of nights. Obviously, it's open to council to consider a condition that would sort of be clearer in how that should operate.
Excellent, thank you. And that goes to my next question. It seems the intent of the applicant is to try and stay in line with our objective of long-term housing supply. They acknowledge that. Have we considered putting a condition on it that the 181 nights must be within 6 months of the 12 months, and the other 12 months it must be available for long-term housing supply?
So just to, through you, Mayor Zaman, if you wouldn't mind if I just clarify your question. So are you suggesting that we could look at a condition that requires for the 6 months of the year where it's operating as a group dwelling for it to indeed be operating as a group dwelling? So I would suggest that the virtue of it being approved as a group dwelling secures that, because using it for anything other than a different type of exempt use within that zone would require a planning approval. The conditions are quite clear in restricting the opportunity and the time frame for using it as a holiday house. So having a specific condition requiring it to be used as a group dwelling is possibly not enforceable, because that's what it's approved as. And anything else that they might want to use it for would either be exempt under the regulations or require an application. But it's obviously open for council to include a condition like that if it sees fit.
Excellent, thank you. I guess to that point, you've mentioned the unenforceability of it. I'm just curious how we would know that it's operating. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say it would be operating as a holiday home for 181 nights. It would then be required to be vacant for 181 nights as a holiday home. What is the difference between it just being vacant because they can't operate as a business for the other nights compared to being a grouped dwelling? Would the expectation be that there would still be a tenant living there for the other remaining nights of the year?
Through you, Mayor Zaman. The use of a group dwelling or any type of ordinarily residential dwelling doesn't change based on whether or not the person who is intending on living in it is in it or not. It could be indeed their property and their residence, but it's vacant without them living in it. In regard to how would we be certain that they've only operated for 181 nights as a STRA, the state government's website for STRA management is very clear in calculating and notifying the city on the total number of nights that a STRA has operated for within that period. So that information is at our fingertips to check.
Excellent, thank you. And just one more question, I think. Our draft STA policy says that the holiday home should be adjacent to, have a direct interface with non-residential land uses. I just wanted to check I understood the report correctly, that this property doesn't meet that criteria and it's within the residential zone.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, that is correct.
Great, thank you. That was all.
Councillor Warner.
Thank you. There seems to be quite a bit of discretion being asked of council on this. Is there any sort of practical sort of limit where we sort of go, okay, that's a bit too much discretion in terms of the land use, the location and the parking in particular? That's three major things here. Is there some sort of limit that we should be considering?
Through you, Mayor Zaman. The planning framework doesn't place limits on what people can apply for, so an application can be made for whatever an applicant would like. It's up to the city officers to undertake an assessment against the framework and determine whether or not the extent of discretion being sought is appropriate, and obviously where the council officers don't have delegation to make that decision, that's a decision for council to make. As evidence in our report, our assessment has determined that the discretion that is being sought is reasonable and is considered to meet the planning framework, but ultimately it's council's decision as to whether or not it's a suitable exercise of discretion.
Thank you. A quick comment about number 2, St Albans Ave. When you look at the map that was provided to us, I think it's on page 6, it's quite clear that number 2 and number 4 do not exist of St Albans Ave. So I'm really not sure how your mapping system produced that figure. And I've been told that number 2 has applied for residential parking. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that would be a concern if that is. If number 11 was for half the year, was a holiday home, during that time, would they have to give up their 3 residential parking permits? I ask that in respect to, particularly if it's scattered throughout the 12 months, every time they're not to be there, do they have to give up their thing, or would they be able to leave their cars there, which would then potentially have up to another 2 cars from the holiday home renters, so we've got potentially 5 cars in the street.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, that's a very good question and not something that was discussed or considered as part of our assessment, but we can definitely take that question on notice and provide a response.
Councillor Lafontaine.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. In regards to the parking permitted, the report mentions the parking restrictions for non-residents being 3p from Monday to Friday. What are the non-resident parking restrictions over the weekend from Friday to Sunday?
Through you, Mayor Zaman. Once again, unfortunately, I'm not aware of what those parking restrictions are, so we will investigate that and I'll take that question on notice and provide a response to you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, if you could include that in the briefing notes, that would be great. Yeah, just to see what the parking restrictions are when the survey was actually conducted. I think that would be useful. The parking management plan also mentions that street parking is available not only on St Albans Avenue but also Lincoln Street, Beaufort Street, Cavendish as well. Do we have any information on the parking capacity of these streets as well?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, unfortunately, I'll have to confirm that for you as well and get the figures from the parking survey, and I'll provide that in the briefing notes for you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions in relation to this item? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next item, which is 6.1, Loftus Recreation Centre, review of annual lease payments to Belgravia Health and Leisure Group. Okay, so who would like to begin? So Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi. I was just hoping to ask two questions about this one, please. Firstly, I'm wondering what the scenario might look like if this item is refused, please.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Zaman. If this item is refused, we'd go back to Belgravia and discuss with them their options. We haven't gone through that with them. There are some loan repayments that the city does have to service here. If Belgravia were to walk away, I'm not saying that's one scenario that could happen. I don't envisage that at the moment. We'd have some pretty robust discussions with them what that would look like if this wasn't approved.
Thank you. And I was also hoping just to get some clarity about the review that's referred to in the report. So last October, we approved the request for the rent reduction and the COVID-19 deferred payments with a review to be conducted before any further reduction was considered. I just wasn't clear on what we're actually meaning by review. Is review this discussion? Is review the financial documents? What are we actually meaning when we say that review?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Zaman. The review was to look at their financial documents and also to look at their current operations and to make sure that they were making adequate steps to ensure that the rent reduction that we were providing them with was giving them the opportunity to essentially turn their business in the right direction and make sure they were making steps towards making it viable again and not just resting on that rent reduction we gave them as just something we'd done and not take any steps further. So we were confident that the new management team that stepped in since the resignation of the previous manager have come from a different background, hospitality background, and are looking at different ways to improve the performance there. And that's all sort of formed part of the review. Regular meetings with them now, monthly meetings with the new team, and just ensuring that they are moving forward rather than sort of sitting on their hands as they were before.
Thank you. So the review constitutes that assessment of the financial documents, those discussions around the operational requirements and all of that work that's been completed in the lead up to where we are now.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, yes, that's correct.
I just want to ask in relation to this item, so obviously the decision was made in 2022 before the majority of us were on council to renew the lease, and my understanding is that it goes through to 2027, but that we would be seeking to potentially go out to tender for any future lease option beyond 2027. Can I understand if I've got that understanding correct?
Yes, Mayor Zaman, that's correct. We are due to expire that lease in December 31st, 2027. My team's been tasked with reviewing that over the next 18 months, so that by the time we get to that, sort of 6 months out from that period, we have a very robust sort of review of the current and options that we have, and we're able to go out to market to see what's available. The current tenant is interested, but with the way they're operating at the moment, we are making sure that we look at all options that are available far and wide in the leisure market.
So can I ask, has there been any discussion or consideration of potentially an early termination, a mutual termination of this lease arrangement and going to tender earlier than December 31st, 2027?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, no, not at this time. There hasn't been.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. Similar, following on from Councillor Wolf's question about the review, we've got in here that there'd be another review in May 2026. Would that look similar to what we've just done now? What would be the aim of that review?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, yes, similar to this review, we just want to make sure that they are continuing to move forward and, let's say, taking the rent reduction seriously and looking to turn it around, because at the end of the day, if they start making money at this facility, there is a financial benefit to the city, not just a community benefit. So we're looking to make sure that they're operating as best they can with the aim to make sure the city makes a benefit as well out of this.
Thank you. Reading through everything we've done with Belgravia, it's really clear that the city's been working very constructively with them for years to find a way forward. I was just curious how we landed on the 50% rate reduction and if alternative amounts or alternative propositions have been considered this rate.
Essentially, that's what they've asked for. Through measures on, that's what they have asked for as their consideration to bring them back to where they think they can sustain their operations. They did ask for 100% originally in the previous, and we suggested they drop that down a bit, and they came back with 50%.
Thank you. Just looking forward to that final financial year on their contract. I'm just wondering from your conversations how likely it is that we're going to be sitting here after May 2026 seeking again an additional rent reduction. And if so, if you think that's likely, is this 50% the best way forward now, or are we better looking at an alternative option at the moment to then set them up better for the following financial year?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, difficult to gauge that one. I'd like to say I was confident with the current team that's moved in. Like I said, from a different background, a hospitality background rather than a leisure facility management background. The gentleman, Grant, that's running it now is from hospitality at Optus Stadium, so it comes with a wealth of experience from there, and they've been giving him the task to turn that around. So I can only sort of say from my first sort of 3 months with him that he certainly seems keen. He's done a bit of a clearing of the house there, done a bit of a tidy up. They've had 2 6-metre skip bins in there, tried to make the place presentable. They've removed the previous cafe operator that wasn't doing such a stellar job in the background and taken that on themselves, and they've got a plan to roll that out as they go forward. So I'm confident they're trying to turn it around. Whether they will, that's for time to see. And certainly with December 2027 looming, 2 years away, but that goes very quickly. I think I was sitting here in 2022 saying that 5 years, and all of a sudden we're 3 years down the track. So we'll be investing in doing the review of the actual lease of the facility. I'd say we'd start in the next 6 months, and by the time we get to that, we will have some idea.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, it's highly unlikely that the existing arrangements would continue into a new lease arrangement. So we would be looking at new ground in some of that and determining what baselines we'd look at as well in respect to new arrangements, but highly unlikely that the existing arrangements would continue onwards.
That was all my questions.
Councillor Warner.
Thank you. Instead of extending this situation for another 2 years and then looking at either renewing the lease or getting a new leaseholder, the comment that there is strong interest that has been shown by others in our briefing notes here, is it worth admin really delving into and working out if it's better to cut our losses now before we commit to this 50% discount again? I just find it hard to justify this being in the community's best interest. This has been something that's been ongoing. Is it better to cut our losses now? And how can we actually make that decision without that sort of actually being looked into?
Through the chair, and being mindful of some of the commercial considerations, the existing arrangements are highly advantageous to the city at the moment. If the city looked at having to take it on it's likely to be facing costs, not only in respect to staffing and overheads, but about how we would manage that in the interim while there is a gap. The likely happening might be that there would be a management fee arrangement for someone to run it on our behalf, and that'll come at a cost too. So, the city isn't at this stage prepared to even be able to do that yet, given the nature of what it is. So, an early termination is probably not likely, given the timeframes that we'd need as administration to prepare for a changeover and a possible new management arrangement.
Thank you. So effectively you're saying it's better for the council, for the city to stay with this for at least another 2 years instead of investigating other options on a more immediate basis.
Through the chair, we will be investigating what the new options might be. We're commencing that now, or have been, but to transition in a 6-month period is highly unlikely with an early termination. And what interim arrangements might be in place between an existing manager of the site, lessee of the site, exiting, and then the city taking it over in the interim, or a new lessee taking it over. We haven't gone into that transition arrangement details in any depth at this stage.
Councillor Poulios.
Yeah, I just want to get my head around this. So basically, and this is my reading between the lines, is the main determiner that the city to still get the loan repayments and the rent reduction is a bit of a carrot to ensure that, because that's a bigger sum obviously to ensure that. Is that how I'm reading it, or?
Through you, Mayor Zamon, that is part of the options at the moment. So they do have the rent reduction, the loan servicing. They are paying into a sinking fund as well to help with capital works at the facility, and they pay the outgoings, of course, as well. So a lot of those costs would come back to the city if they were to terminate early.
This is still on, isn't it? Yeah. The other question, I don't know if does the building currently have solar panels on it?
Through you, Mayor Zamon, I'll have to take that one on notice and have a look. I believe we had discussions a couple of years ago, and because of the lease arrangement at the facility, there was robust negotiations, and I don't believe that we went forward with it, but I will double check that.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm asking is that something they, as an alternative, that would save them power on their utility costs, that would then, I guess, remain an asset to the city, something like that. I don't know, just if it's feasible or if it's, yeah, something to look into. Yeah, and the other point I've got to make is, as a user, I guess this is more as a user, and I'm hearing a lot of, and it obviously makes sense now if they've been struggling financially. The courts are always dusty when you're playing sports in the hall there. The nets for basketball take forever to get sort of fixed. Is there any guarantees that, and they can't give guarantees, I know that, but from your dealings with the new management, will they be more proactive in repairs, maintenance, and that sort of thing than it has been for probably the last 18 months? Because it's a pretty sad state of affairs.
So through you, Mayor Zamon, yes, I've had some productive, like I said before, productive conversations with the new state manager there. He's got an interim manager in the facility at the moment, and I'll continue those discussions with him. And you're certainly not the only one that's brought up some of those issues they've had over the last sort of 2 years. Yeah. And I will keep working with them. That's all I can say towards a better outcome for the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just ask on that note, if there's any intention to bring back the creche that we got so much grief about when they closed down?
Through you, Mayor Zamon, no intention to bring back the creche. They are hiring that area out to several groups at the moment, including CEDA, and I believe that's providing a fair bit of income for them. The creche, I think 2 or 3 of the people that were there have relocated to Beatty Park and quite happy there.
Councillor Wallace, did you
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Zemon. Look, I just wanted to ask how confident you are that the kind of management costs that Belgravia are reporting are accurate and kind of fair and reasonable. I guess if we're being asked to solve the financial issues by taking a hit to our hip pocket, are we certain that there's not operational efficiencies or other changes that can be made on their end to avoid the cost to us?
Through you, Mayor Zemon, I can't be 100% confident in any of those figures there. It's a big company. It's Australia-wide. You'd hope that the audited figures were correct, but I'm not an auditor. Like I say, I'm working with the management team at the moment. From what I've seen of the new management team, the old management team was more about blaming us for not upgrading the building. This one's more about what's the customer experience going to be like in the future. Like I said, he's from a hospitality background rather than a leisure and sports background. So I'm hoping that hospitality and customer experience will be the way forward, but I can't say for sure with any figures there. So.
Okay, are there any further questions in relation to this item? Thank you very much. So I'll move on to the next item, which is 6.2, Booty Park Toilet and Store Change Room. Are there any questions in relation to this item? Yeah. Councillor Warner.
I don't quite know where to start with this one. Firstly, can I just comment that the maps, the layouts that we get are near impossible to decipher. I've printed them out and I still can't read them. So it's really hard to see that. So it's hard for us to make an informed decision. From my understanding, what we've really requested here is to have shelter, change room, public toilets. And so that's what we're looking for. This is at Booty Park Reserve, which is classified as a district public open space with the site function as sport. And a place like this has minimum amenities that it's supposed to provide. We do, I don't know how many there are, at least 10 or so. We do most of those. We don't provide shade and we don't provide the infrastructure for a sports ground. I don't quite know what that is supposed to determine, and we certainly don't provide public toilets and haven't done for quite some time. Do you think that, sorry, I'm trying to work out which way to go with this. So basically, we're in a fight for time. We really need to be providing this, and it's been a real issue for me in particular, that for my entire time on council that we haven't. So I feel like we need to resolve this, and we need to resolve it really fast, particularly with the upgrade to the playground. So it makes the public toilet aspect even more urgent. So you presented to us some options here with the suggestion that respondent number 3 is the one that you recommend. What if council doesn't agree with 3? What if council preferred number whatever? I don't know if they do. I haven't asked anyone. But what would be the implication if we just did not agree with number 3?
Through you, Ms. Mon. Yes, sure. If you don't agree with number 3, we've looked at it from both, like the scope in general, and not just from the built form, but also operationally. And Rebus is the best outcome in terms of operating, particularly life cycle costing. If we look at the Birdwood, I think that's respondent number 1 on there, which is, who's that? Landmark. That's currently at the Birdwood design, so we are having phenomenal issues there in terms of its operations. But yes.
Sorry, can I just confirm, when you say you're talking about damage when you're talking about phenomenal issues? Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what you meant.
Thank you. So with going with number 3, this is requiring an increase request in the budget of $190,000. is there no way to go with any of the other options with mitigating some of those anticipated durability issues that you're thinking?
They're basically sheet metals held together by tech screws, and already down the back we've noticed that someone's tried to undo those particular screws and get in sleep behind it. There are ongoing maintenance issues related to the robustness of the inside as well. So yes, it is an option to choose that, but from our perspective, for the ongoing durability and longer life, we're suggesting that the concrete tilt-up model would have a nominal, at least engineered, 50-year lifespan.
Thank you. I don't know, I look at number 3 and I'm just really, I know we're talking public toilets, but I'm really not inspired. Is there no way to revisit the design of this at all? I say that also knowing that we have discussed that we would try to do some artwork on the outside of it. I don't know what the budget would be for that and what the implications of that would be, but is this really the best we can do?
Through the chair, I'll just take that as rhetorical. There's any number of ways that we can look at, including artwork and landscaping, to soften the nature of the design within that element. So, and we'd pursue that.
Councillor Greer.
Great, thank you. Similar to Councillor Warner's comments about the floor plan being really pixelated, I think it's really hard to really understand what we're agreeing to in the different options other than the big pretty picture. So I was just wondering if we can, probably for the briefing notes, can get those images in a way that we can read them, but particularly I'm interested in the size differences between the size of the change room and the size of the storeroom for the different options, and how many people we would expect from that change room might be able to utilise it. I don't have a good understanding of the size.
Through you, Ms. Simon, yes, we can give out some handouts that actually make them enlarged, so acknowledge the size that wasn't appropriate.
Thank you. Similar for the different options, I'm just trying to, one of our goals is to make sure there's some shade and some protection from the rain. I'm just trying to understand for each of the different options, really how much shade and protection there would be from the rain. Can you stand underneath it? And would we reasonably expect that people would be protected from the weather?
Sure. Acknowledge that the elevations presented are hard to determine the level of shade that's going to be provided. That is something that we've looked at and discussed, and we are going to look to continue. I think it's the eaves on this particular respondents on rebuses, to extend those eaves to actually ensure there's some shade there.
Excellent, thank you. That would be great, because I think that's definitely one of the goals, is especially for the soccer in the winter time. I did just want to pick up on the role of artwork. Like, this still looks, from the one image, not the most aesthetically pleasing. I'm just wondering if that budget does include something a bit prettier than the blue and the white, which picks up on Beatty Park, but or would that be additional budget?
Through you, Ms. Simon, that would actually be an additional budget.
Okay, my next question, again, just from the design, one of the discussions we've had is around access to drinking water. I think one of the toilets down at Wandooly is excellent because you can get access to water and water bottles and for dogs. I was just wondering if any of these designs have got provision for refilling water bottles.
Through you, Ms. Simon, not our facility itself, but I do believe there is going to be a water fountain around near the playground there. We can confirm it's there already, yeah.
The actual scope itself for the civil works did not include a water fountain, but water is being extended out there. So there would be, I imagine, a relatively simple process to include that.
Excellent. Thank you. That was all of my questions.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. Acknowledging I was on leave for a workshop where this was discussed a couple of months ago, I was wondering if you could just give us a brief rundown on how the design brief or the design aspects of the request for tender was developed, and then how these proposed designs were assessed against that.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, the design review panel assisted with the scope of works. And then, of course, we added on our operational desires and our minimum spec for our other public toilets.
Okay, and so did we get the design review panel to review these designs against their brief, or
Through you, Mayor
can you
Zaman.
summarise how these designs were assessed against the brief?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, no, these designs haven't gone back through to the design review panel.
Okay. I guess without naming names, are you able to give details on the experience and qualifications of the people that were on the tender review panel? And
We can give you some background of the tender panel members in the briefing notes.
okay, thank you. I'm having a pretty hard time imagining this out at Beatty Park. It's a small and blurry JPEG. Do we have any further, I guess, renders of how this will sit in the park against, the reserve itself, against the heritage structures in the background?
Through the chair, Councillor, the brief was given to the various companies where they had to address those issues. I would say that the respondents, being a particular building modular basis, is not necessarily their expertise. So we do have further imagery where they addressed it in the background, but maybe not to the extent that we would do if we were to get like a full architectural design done of that did not form part of the brief.
This is somewhat rhetorical, but feel free to have a crack. Would you be able to summarise the differences in, I guess, our assessment of a DA for a building of a similar value in the private realm and how we've assessed this design that we're proposing to put forwards?
Through Ms. Mon, I'd probably throw to our friends in planning for that.
So can I just confirm? So, so it obviously is a completely different department. So we're just this for anyone who's listening. So, but perhaps if you, thank you very much for being prepared to address the meeting around that question in terms of the processes around how you do, make that planning assessment.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman. Through you, Mayor Zaman. So I guess this isn't wouldn't be a typical application we would receive in planning because of course it's on a reserve and it's for public purpose. However, I guess some broad principles that we would apply to any type of development that was as, I guess, visible as this or would have an impact on the built form or character of the area would be to at the very least, get some comments from our design review panel just informally, which we sometimes do. If it was considered to require a full design review panel meeting, we would assemble that panel and provide that opportunity for the applicant to address the concerns that were raised by the design review panel. We would obviously be needing to give the regard to the design review panel as an informative body, but also undertaking a planning assessment on the merits of the application itself. So a little bit different to this scenario, of course, but that is the typical process we'd go through to determine whether or not the design was appropriate for the location.
I guess, can I request then in the briefing notes an assessment of this design against the design panels with or without assistance from the DRP? And then I guess where we are with this, so this doesn't look like a prefab design to me, so I'm just wondering what opportunities are there if we say, you know, we support the reasons for the proposed appointment in all other aspects, except hypothetically we think it's pretty ugly. What could we do at this point then? Like, can we go out and pay a small lump sum to an architect to work with this proposed builder to refine the design? And, you know, kind of as part of this process here.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, yes, we could. That would obviously have an impact to the budget, so if that's acceptable, sure.
Okay, just flagging a potential amendment to the item along those lines and a brief history of Perth modernist architecture next week.
Are there any further questions for administration? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to draw on a few threads of the conversation that we've had now with one very clear request for the briefing notes, if I could please. I was wondering if it was possible to get 3 things included if we have them. Firstly, a copy of the original design pack with any further imagery, whether or not that includes the background, just whatever we have. I think we're quite keen to see something that's clear and readable, but it would also be useful just to see whatever has been provided if it's from different angles, and we can just get a little bit more sense of what this is going to look like. Secondly, some examples of similar work done by the recommended contractor that might give us another sense of what their work looks like. And thirdly, an estimate of how much it might cost to do some artwork, paint a mural, and include some landscaping on the recommended or other design.
Through you, Ms. Mon, yeah, that can be provided in the briefing notes.
That'd be great, thank you. And I had a couple of other quick questions, please. I just wanted some clarity, please, on whether there was contingency built into the original budget allocation.
Through you, Ms. Mon, there was a minor contingency built into the original budget.
Through the chair, just to note that the scope was expanded to include a change room that wasn't there, therefore that wasn't carried in the original budget.
Sorry,
Yes,
Matt, just
I
to
can
add, sorry to that, yeah. It was only ever for a public toilet originally with a small storeroom. That was the request.
Yeah, and I recall that the council resolved unanimously that they wanted to have a change room there as well. So hence, that is a decision that council made. Councillor Wolf, did you have anything further?
One last one, please. I just was hoping for a bit of clarification, please, around the division between the portion 1 and portion 2, the built form and civil works components. Was there ever an intention to engage multiple contractors for those different components, or was it always the intention to engage one to do both?
Through the chair, that's a good question. The idea of having portion 1, portion 2 was simply a case where we were conscious of having to meet the March deadline for the grant application and the requirement to have something in place for the season. We were conscious of the budgets and the available budgets, so we saw that as a possibility that should there be a complexity involved, there's an opportunity under portion 1 to able to begin the forward works, being the earthworks for doing that. It was and then the procurement processes require that they be 2 separate and carried separately, but they could be bundled together, which is the way they were written. But certainly been our preference to have the one contractor in order to be able to avoid a contract not being ready for the other one. But yeah, the fundamental reason why there were 2 portions was to do with the fact that we were conscious of that time. So there's a piece of work that we could go ahead and get done in time, while the other one, if there were other further complications to it.
Councillor Poulios.
Yeah, I guess this has probably been answered before my time, but just want to know if Perth Soccer Club's been consulted on this, and yeah, are they happy with, does it meet their needs going forward, and yeah, with the design, or yeah?
3 Mesmon, yes, Perth Soccer Club. Again, originally just wanted a change room and a small store, so the additional, a toilet and store. So with the addition of the change room, they're happy with that.
All good. Change room's my favourite subject.
Okay, are there any further questions? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Councillor Warner?
Thank you. Just wanting to note that your comments about respondent 1 is made of sort of tin and etc. and respondent 3 is not. We've got no way of knowing that. So I appreciate you telling us that, but what we've got here is of really little information. Was there any consideration to any sort of bench seating sort of attached to the walls, the exterior walls? Is that a possibility of including?
Through you, Ms. Simon, yes, that is certainly a possibility of putting that around. There was a possibility of putting bench seating around, Ms. Simon.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, CEO was just talking to me about something. Councillor Warner, do you have any further questions? Councillor Wallace.
One more, thank you, Mayor Simon. Just around the siting of it, it looks pretty close to the footy goalposts. Is it going to kind of interfere with the utilisation of that? Like, I know it's mostly used for soccer, but will it kind of preclude future use as a cricket or football facility?
Through Ms. Simon, that has been considered, and the goalpost will have to be moved slightly. So,
Okay.
with no impact.
Is that a significant budget thing?
No.
Then that's included in the civils budget, like the establishment works, or is that going to come under some separate cost?
That isn't included in the civils, but we'll be able to accommodate that in our existing budgets.
All right, thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions in relation to this item? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next item. The next item is 8.3, the information bulletin. Councillor Wolf, you had some questions?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just hoping to check in quickly, please, on 235 Brisbane Street. Understand that the SAT hearing for that went ahead on the 27th. I'll wait for you to take a seat. Sorry.
Through you, Mayor Zaman. Thank you. It's a good question. So I also had a quick look at what the decision was before coming in tonight. The member has reserved their decision, so they are going to take more time to examine the evidence before providing a full decision. So at this point in time, unfortunately, I haven't got anything further to share. But once we get that information, we'll be able to share it with councillors and members of the public who are interested.
Perfect, thank you. That's all I was hoping to confirm, was that that had gone ahead. Given statutory timeframes, understand that we could expect a decision by February, but I was just hoping to check that was all correct and there's nothing else that we needed to be aware of that's taken place.
Are there any further questions in relation to 11.1? Okay, so then, in relation to 8.3, we now move to 11.1, which is a confidential item. And so for those people who may be watching on the live stream, we will be now be stopping the live stream and returning after we have finished talking about the confidential item. So can I please confirm, Wendy, is the live stream